4 o'clock p.m., which means it's time for the news on freedom. My name is Mikhail Baranov. Hello. 4 rescuers were injured as a result of a Russian attack on the Zaporizhzhia region. The occupiers deliberately struck a minibus belonging to the State Emergency Service of Ukraine with a drone. The vehicle was completely destroyed. The injured are receiving medical assistance. The Russian army has once again struck Kramatorsk in the Donetsk region. At least 3 explosions were heard. A rescue unit and an industrial area came under fire. 2 people are known to have been injured. They are local women. They are already receiving medical assistance. At night, the Russians also attacked Novorossiysk with drones. That's in the Chernihiv region. There, 3 people were injured. As a result of the shelling, several private homes and 2 cars were damaged. In addition, one of the communities in the Novorossiysk district was affected by a KAB strike. The power lines there were damaged. In total, on Wednesday night, Russia launched 80 drones at Ukraine. About 50 of them were Shahids, according to the Ukrainian Air Force. Ukrainian air defenders neutralized 61 drones of various types in the north, south, and east of the country. Hits were recorded at 7 locations. In 2 more places, debris from downed Russian aerial targets fell. It was also an uneasy night in Russia. Drones attacked 2 oil refining stations in the Yaroslavl region. Local authorities claim that supposedly no one was injured and the consequences of the strikes have been contained. In addition, according to Reuters, after the drone strikes, the Russian Black Sea port of Tuap suspended fuel exports, and the Rosneft-controlled oil refinery stopped processing crude oil due to damage to port infrastructure. As of November 5th, all ships that were docked during the attack have left and are now anchored in the port waters. Another 900 Russian occupiers on the front were eliminated by Ukraine's defense forces. Thus, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Russia's total combat losses since the start of the full-scale war have already exceeded 1,145,500 soldiers. In addition, 3 Russian tanks were destroyed the day before. 3 armored combat vehicles, 24 artillery systems, and 70 vehicles were also destroyed. A total of 154 combat clashes were recorded on the front line over the past day. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, more than a third of the attacks, 52, were carried out by the enemy in the Pokrovsk direction. 17 more assaults were repelled in the Sloviansk sector, 15 in the Oleksandrivka sector, 11 in the Kostiantynivka sector, 10 in the Lyman sector, and 9 in the southern Slobozansky sector. On the Kupiansk bridgehead, the defense forces stopped 5 attempts by the Russians to break through Ukrainian defenses. Analyzing the situation in this direction, military experts say that the Ukrainian armed forces are stabilizing the situation.
Our defense forces are acting very pragmatically in this section of the front right now, not only using their resources to eliminate Russian assault troops who have infiltrated the Kupiansk area, but also carrying out operations to destroy pontoon crossings over the Oskil River, north of Kupiansk, and conducting operations to destroy key logistical routes that run along not only the eastern, but also the western bank of this river. And, in principle, I believe that this activity is gradually yielding results.
The defense of the Pokrovsk-Myrna agglomeration continues. There is no encirclement of Ukrainian armed forces units. This was stated by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. They emphasized that just in the past day, Ukrainian soldiers eliminated 26 Russian occupiers in the Pokrovsk area. Another 64 invaders were wounded. 58 enemy infantry shelters in the city and its surroundings were destroyed or damaged. The Dobropillia operation is also ongoing. Over the past day, Ukrainian assault units advanced up to 700 meters in certain directions. Measures are being taken to block the enemy, who is trying to infiltrate and amass forces in Pokrovsk. Active resistance is underway against attempts by groups of Russian infantry to gain a foothold. In Pokrovsk, Ukraine's defense forces are conducting strike and search operations. Specifically, assault units of the 425th Separate Assault Regiment, operators from Unmanned Systems Forces, Special Operations Groups, the National Guard, and the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine have been involved. These are reinforced military units holding the city's defense. From a statement by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on Facebook, The airport in Vilnius suspended operations due to the appearance of an unidentified drone. According to the security service, the violating drone, which was in the airport's airspace, was intercepted in less than a minute. This incident did not significantly affect the operation of the terminals. Only 2 planes departed with minor delays. The airport is now operating as usual in standard mode. Belgium will hold an emergency meeting of the National Security Council due to incidents involving drones that were detected over the country's airports and air bases. The National Security Council will convene tomorrow, November 6th, at 10 a.m. local time. According to Belgian security services, the main suspicion regarding the drone incidents is directed at Russia. They also noted that after the recent incidents, security measures have already been strengthened. North Korea is preparing for a possible meeting between dictator Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Donald Trump. This was reported by Bloomberg, citing South Korean intelligence. According to the publication, Pyongyang has started gathering information about American officials who are involved with North Korean affairs. Let me remind you, Trump last met with the leader of North Korea back in 2019. During his trip to Asia, he once again stated that he was ready for negotiations, but due to a packed schedule, the meeting did not take place. A release that Paris had been waiting for 3 years. Iran has freed 2 French citizens, Cécile Kohler and her partner Jacques Patrice, from prison. They were accused of espionage and collaborating with Israel. France's Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot confirmed that the couple is now safe at the French residence in Tehran, where they are awaiting their final return home. The release of the citizens was also welcomed by French President Emmanuel Macron.
Cécile Kohler and Jacques Paris, who had been held in Iran for 3 years, have left Evin prison and are on their way to the French embassy in Tehran. I welcome this first step. The dialogue continues in order to facilitate their swift return to France. We are working tirelessly on this, and I would like to thank our embassy and all government services for their efforts. Emmanuel Macron, President of France, on social network X.
Protesters in India, whose relatives were deceitfully recruited into the Russian army, are demanding immediate action from the authorities to bring their loved ones home. According to the demonstrators, the men went to Russia for study or work, but were forcibly sent to the front lines. More details in the report by Yulia Granovskaya.
Relatives of those recruited by Russia and Indian citizens are demanding the return of their loved ones home, reports the Ukrainian Center for Strategic Communications. Protest participants say that some of the Indians illegally mobilized into the Russian army have gone missing or have died. It is known that at least 12 have died and 16 Indian citizens are listed as missing.
The families have received neither the bodies nor any compensation. This is yet another piece of evidence showing how Russia uses foreigners as cannon fodder, hiding the true scale of its losses, reports the Center for Strategic Communications under the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine on Telegram.
For the first time since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, in October 2025, a citizen of India was captured by Ukraine's defense forces. 22-year-old Majodi Sahil Mohammad Hossein voluntarily surrendered to the soldiers of the 63rd Separate Mechanized Brigade, the Steel Lions. The foreigner says he came to Russia to study at a medical university, but was arrested and sentenced to 7 years in prison. The alleged reason was possession of prohibited substances. Later, as is now customary in the Russian Federation, the man was offered to go to the front instead of
prison. And I was there for a total of 16 long days, just barely holding on, trying to keep myself together. They washed us only once, then a second time, and that was it. Break time equals 0.5s/n.
training. The Indian spent only 16 days, after which he was assigned to the assault troops. After covering just 3 kilometers and digging a dugout, Majodi said he couldn't go any further.
Majodi is a unique name that is often used as a personal or family name in certain cultures.
ran to the dugout of the medical company of the 63rd Separate Mechanized Brigade, Steel Lions. He says he doesn't want to return to Russia. He is not the first to be captured in the USSR and asked not to be sent back to the Russian Federation. For example, on October 30th, during fighting near Volchansk, soldiers of the 120th Separate Brigade of the Territorial Defense Forces of the Ukrainian Armed Forces captured 25-year-old Iraqi citizen Alimari Kamal Nabil Khalaf.
I came to Russia on a tourist visa to work in a restaurant. Then the police detained me because I didn't have a work visa. They took me to the station and forced me to sign a contract. I was scared and didn't want to do it. But then they threatened me, saying that if I didn't do it, they would put me in prison for 20 years.
The Coordination Headquarters for the Treatment of Prisoners reports that there are more than 100 citizens from 32 countries in Ukrainian captivity, not counting Russians. Most of the prisoners are citizens of Central Asian countries. Foreigners end up in the Russian army through a similar scenario. They come to Russia to study, travel, or look for work. Later, they run into legal troubles and, in order to avoid prison, agree to go to the front. They are promised good salaries, a limited term of service, and a position in the rear. In reality, they just become cannon fodder. According to Ukrainian intelligence, Moscow is now actively recruiting citizens of Afghanistan, Iran, and Iraq into the ranks of the Russian army.
We are observing active operations by Russian intelligence services in Afghanistan. They are recruiting former Afghan military personnel, special forces operatives, and intelligence officers to fight in the war against Ukraine. The recruitment is facilitated by the U.S. decision announced in March 2025 to end the temporary protection program for Afghan citizens and to begin deporting Afghan refugees from Iran. Ola Alexandrov, an officer of Ukraine's Foreign Intelligence Service, in an interview with Ukrinform.
According to intelligence, about 1,500 Iraqi citizens are fighting as part of the Russian army. In African and Middle Eastern countries, particularly Ethiopia and Sudan, Russian diplomatic missions are involved in recruiting mercenaries, providing consular support to facilitate their entry into Russia. Putin has no other choice but to recruit foreigners. This way, the Russian dictator can ease tensions within Russian society and make up for the massive losses at the front. That's the expert's conclusion. Yulia Agranovskaya for Freedom TV channel.
Strengthening air defense and drone production. Ukrainian Defense Minister Denis Shmyhal, during his visit to Norway, held a series of meetings with his counterparts from Finland, the Netherlands, Estonia, and Denmark. The ministers discussed prospects for joint production of drones, particularly interceptor drones, as well as work on confiscating Russian assets and supporting the Ukrainian army. During the meeting with Estonian Defense Minister Hanno Pevkur, he expressed gratitude for Estonia's participation in Pearl and for the proposal to allocate €3 million for the purchase and support of Starlink satellite communication systems. Ukraine is also ready to participate in the implementation of projects within the framework of SAFE, which will contribute to the mutual development of our defense industrial complexes. Together with Danish Defense Minister Troels Lund Poulsen, we noted the success of the Danish model for financing the Ukrainian armed forces. This year alone, under this model, we have already received €1.2 billion from Denmark. By the end of the year, it is planned to attract more than €500 million additionally. Denis Shmyhal, Minister of Defense of Ukraine. Facebook. Ukraine has joined the Joint Expeditionary Force Defense Alliance. This coalition includes 10 Northern European countries, and it was established by the United Kingdom 10 years ago. I would like to note that Ukraine became the first country outside the alliance to receive the status of enhanced partner. Ukrainian Defense Minister Denis Shmyhal called this a historic event and assured that Kyiv would strengthen the alliance. After all, Ukraine will be able to share its experience in countering hybrid aggression, using air defense systems, deploying drones, and conducting long-range strikes. In return, Ukraine expects its partners to provide access to European technologies and production facilities, which could serve as a basis for joint manufacturing, Shmyhal added.
Subscribe to The Gaze and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.